preliminary fresh Carlton draft. We're all here, as are you and everybody in the studio. I've got a massive, massive show tonight. Paul Roos, a man who knows about preliminary finals and premierships and a man who helped build what we see in the Melbourne Football Club right now, to join us tonight. Something very special might be happening around Roosy on the show tonight. We're going to be crossing over to Perth a little bit later on, where Fitzy and the Jakovich brothers are going to get together. We'll keep our fingers crossed and hopefully it all goes okay. A lot to get through. This is one of the great weeks of the year, isn't it? Preliminary final week.
Preliminary final week is the funnest, almost the funnest week in the calendar. And, of course, the final four are there. And, Mickey, your Tigers are one of them, as we know. A big week in Tigerland. How are you holding up yourself? How are you handling yourself?
Is there footy on this week, is it?
No.
In all honesty, very quiet, keeping a lid on it, staying under the radar.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? That's interesting.
That's the way I roll.
It's interesting you say that, Mickey, because I'm just wondering if you are a man of your word, if you could just actually explain what's going on here, if you are in fact keeping a lid on it.
Look, that's the lighting of the town hall. That was the town hall.
Last night, was it?
The town hall at Richmond, lighting the Richmond colours for the town hall. It was a great night, especially once I got them to agree to run all the cabling up to the Collingwood town hall and turn it on from there.
That's a good idea.
Do you realise...
Collingwood did the lights too above their town hall.
Did they?
Yeah, it was just a police helicopter with a spotlight. trying to find Collingwood fans.
You're fully aware of the fact that you're not in the grand final yet. Like, I know you've gone a bit early, haven't you, this week?
Last year you did it in the grand final.
Correct.
Why are you doing it in preliminary final?
Because we are not as arrogant to presume we'll be in the grand final. We just thought we'd give our shut up.
They're not buying that at all.
We're just flying slowly and under the radar and keeping it...
Great images, though. You, Tiger supporters.
Yeah, massive.
Electricity, just a shame it didn't rain, really. But I wanted to say this. You are looking...
It's a terrible thing to say.
You are looking surprisingly fresh, by the way.
Well, thank you very much.
I know you've got the preliminary final, then who knows what after that. But I suggest you're holding up very well, especially when compared to, say, the Tigers mascot here on the left. He doesn't look as...
That tiger looks like it may have been shot in the arse with a tranquiliser gun. About half an hour before that was taken.
I don't think it looks like a tiger. It looks like the Lorax from Dr. Zeus. It doesn't even look like a tiger. Where is a big game hunter when you need one?
I think that tiger's a little subdued because it might be a bit concerned about the knee.
Don't do this.
No, it's been a big story the last couple of weeks.
This. You're better than this, Andy.
No, we have to confront. It's the elephant in the room for you. You said drop it. We don't want to talk about it. Don't do it on the show tonight. But he's only had one real training session since you won your way through from the qualifying final.
I heard he had Lars.
He hasn't trained with a group. Have a look at that.
That's always a good sign this time of year to be training away from the main group. That's always a good sign, isn't it?
Look, he's had some issues.
Yep.
The knee's not right. Are you concerned about what Dusty's going to be able to do?
Would you like me to explain it to you simply and in layman's terms?
Beg your pardon?
Well, so this is the knee.
That's the knee.
That's a knee, is it? Right. Okay.
This is the knee. There's your tendons.
Which ones are the tendons?
What's that bit?
Oh, that's your bilateral.
The bilateral.
Your bilateral. Don't stop it.
Where's the cartilage?
Here's the beach. The cartilage is everywhere, mate. There's cartilage. So if there's any problem, it's too much cartilage.
Righto. So where's Dusty?
Andy, have a strawberry. Andy, have a strawberry.
Anyone you want. No?
Pick that one. Pick that one.
No,
all right, now listen.
I'll just pass.
Listen.
All right.
You might learn something here.
Where's Dusty's knee?
So this is Dusty's hurt his knee. It's for one of either two things that I can think of. Either too much kneeling in church or an overly aggressive lap dance. And now there's one of the two. Or somewhere in between. But to my medical eye, wait, what?
What's
You know, it's damaged there. Just shut up. It says made in China. This, if you have a look at the wear, it's a natural wear and tear that is the direct result of kicking too many freakish goals from unrealistic angles. This is probably where he did most of the damage. See the pressure? See the pressure that puts on the knee? I rest my case.
Oh, yeah, right, no problems.
Yeah. Anyway, I've been giving him sponge baths all week, so...
Hey, it has been... Look, I know you're trying to play it down, and I know people in Richmond are trying to play it down, but football manager, a great friend of the program,
yes.
Neil Baum, was asked about it during the week. There was a big media contingent that arrived at Punt Road. One story was out that there might have been an issue, and this is how the line of questioning went down with Neil Baum.
We saw Dustin Martin out there training away from the main group. Is that a concern?
I don't know how many times we have to say there's nothing wrong with him and he'll play.
Is it just a corky? Is that what it is?
Oh, well, I don't even know what it is. There's nothing wrong with him.
So categorically, nothing wrong with Dusty. He's not even a little bit sore.
No, he's fine. I just don't get it. I don't get why you keep asking us the same question and getting the same answer.
He couldn't be more explicit.
You and your fellow journalists have a lot to answer.
Oh, what's it?
The man he answered the question once. You don't have to need ridiculous follow-up questions that go nowhere. He's answered the question. That's it.
So we would never have understood what Watergate was about if Woodward and Bernstein just had drifted away after the first negative response they get. You would never have known about Richard Nixon. What are you talking about?
So we thought we're going to need more strawberries up here. Yes, Nicky.
Yes,
we just thought, and like, he's a good friend of the show, and I know he's busy, but we just thought let's go straight to the source. Let's get the football manager of the Richmond Football Club on the phone and say a good evening to Neil Baum. Neil, welcome to the front bar.
I'm not sure I should be here.
Thanks for joining us, by the way. We appreciate you doing that on the eve of such a big game. Yeah.
Okay, let's get. There's so many questions to ask, Neil. Of course, about the big game tomorrow night. I'll go first if you want.
Yeah, no, go right ahead. Yeah.
Neil, what's wrong with Dusty's knee? And will he play tomorrow night?
Wow. Thanks a lot.
He's a great friend of the show, Neil Baum.
I had 100 questions to ask
How dare you treat him like that?
I thought he sat on the fence a bit, don't you?
Come on, you lot.
Hey, he didn't want to answer questions about the knee, which has had a corky and it's bled, and it's going to be okay, and of course he's going to play.
Yeah.
But he was asked about it on SEN during the week, and he did reveal that there might have been one way that could have led to Dustin Martin not playing in the preliminary final tomorrow night.
The only way he won't play is if someone kidnaps him and doesn't let him go to the game, and I think that's probably a bit unlikely.
Oh, I don't know about...
Well, you never know.
In this day and age.
There are some people who might do that.
It is a bit unlikely, until you suggest it to Collingwood supporters. Do you know what? They tried. They actually... I have this on good authority during the week. A group of supporters tried to kidnap Dustin Martin. They didn't get it quite right. This footage was sent in with ransom attached. I think you'll find that's Ray Martin. You idiots. Yes. And Ray's still there, by the way, because we haven't paid the ransom. You're a good egg, Ray. A good egg.
Also, we'd like to thank Tara Brown for sorting that out. Hey, can we just...
Hey, no, too much Richmond. Too much Richmond.
What do you mean?
Too much Richmond. The other mob's in, and they are flying Collingwood. They are one of the really two big momentum. Have a look at them. This is Maguire v Malloy, the power of the Gargantuans. Who can lead their tribe into battle with the greatest impact? They were up and about down to training this week. They were out in their thousands. All generations of Collingwood supporters are there.
Have a look at this kid. Honestly, I think he needs a skin fold test. He needs to put in a big pre-season. He's a little porker.
They're a well, they are a force of nature.
It's a good point. It's good that we talk about the other team, by the way. And you know, as the ambassador of Richmond, you're almost like Richmond's Joffa, really. a mask.
I'll allow it. What's your point? What do you say?
I don't know. I'm actually quite scared now. No, it's just how good is it to have a big Melbourne
No, it's
club
great.
back in the preliminary
Oh,
final?
what do you mean? A big Melbourne club? They had 75,000 to their last game. It was 95.
Legitimate members.
Do you know what?
Legitimate members.
They would be, if someone had to merge with us, they'd probably be at the top of our list. Collingwood. Just absorbing a little minnow club like Collingwood.
You've played. I've got a couple of serious things. You played
Sure.
2 games in 4 weeks. What about Rusty being Rusty?
Yeah, well, whatever. I don't know.
That's a concern.
We're going to be fine. Don't make me
Who
nervous.
are you going to play under Goey? If Goey won out as a power.
Rants, there you go.
Rants. Oh, who's on Cox?
Crimes.
Who?
Crimes.
Oh,
I'm not going to play a little game.
isn't he going to North?
By the way, this could be the biggest. This could be the biggest game Mason Cox never gets a kick in. This could be.
Hey.
It could be. I'm just putting it out there.
I'm glad you mentioned Jordan Agoe, because if ever there's been a bloke who's been built for finals, has got Norm Smith written all over him, it's this bloke, I reckon.
I'll tell you what. Him one out last week
Hey, look at
reminded me of
this.
This is a left foot drop kick on the run, Mickey.
Under pressure, against the flow. You got no one in your side who's capable of matching this sort of stuff.
No, he's going to be tough to handle. We've just got to pray his dog behaves himself this week. I'll tell you who doesn't. I'll tell you who loves Jordan De Goey more than Ed or Bucks.
Who?
Luke Darcy. Surprising but true.
Side bottom. Here comes De Goey.
He's been carted off in an ambulance, I reckon.
You're right,
after that call. Look, they may have De Goey, but we have Caddy.
He sets it up. Caddy.
I think you can sense the precise moment Bruce's testicles dropped in that one little call.
Hey, one of the other great stories, of course, is the Melbourne Footy Club. It's remarkable. There's been all sorts of stories about trip over there and all sorts of stuff. One of the fascinating things is that some reports are that Melbourne members, supporters, have been buying seats at Perth Stadium, even though they won't be going over there, just to have empty seats at the stadium to reduce the amount of noise that West Coast Eagles supporters can make to gee up their own team and affect the umpiring.
North Melbourne's been doing that on Good Friday weekend for 5 years. I mean, get your own material. Come up with your own canny plan.
The other thing they're doing live a live site too. Both clubs are doing live sites. And Collingwood's doing
Where's Collingwood's? Do you know where Collingwood's
where it is?
No, where Collingwood is. I know.
Barwon Prison? Where would you have it?
Melbourne's live site is at Fed Square. By the way, if you can't get over there, there'll be Grange on tap. It's going to be a good night.
Mid-strength Grange.
Mid-strength Grange.
Because it's a night.
Hey, the other story, of course, is that there's been some price gouging to get from east to west. The airlines have certainly taken advantage of this. And some Melbourne supporters have decided and checked it all out that it's actually cheaper to take flights from Melbourne to Singapore and then come in sort of the back way when they could just use the old road trip as an option. I mean, the vans are heading over. How much fun would it be to be in the middle of this party?
Would you like to know?
Have a listen to this.
Someone in that van's got to get eaten before they hit Port Melbourne, I reckon.
I want to be part of that. That'd be great fun. Wouldn't that be awesome fun?
You talk about it. It's a long drive back from Geelong after a loss. But our long drive back from Perth. That's a long one.
It's a long way to go to leave at three-quarter time, isn't it? It's all...
Anyway.
The flights are very hard to get. Do you realise on my flight, I've got to go from here to Bali to Cancun for Schoolies Week.
And then to Perth?
No, I'm not going to Perth. just taking a holiday.
What is wrong?
I've done that, by the way. They're overdoing that. I've done the Singapore to Perth trip before.
Have you?
Yeah, but I was flying Tiger Air and the pilot got lost, so it's the same thing. That is a long trip over there. They're singing. That's
great,
that song.
mate.
That's an acoustic version.
Yeah.
They've got. I saw that story. They've got other versions of the song that will be played over there. This is real audio. This is real audio. Enjoy this, but also wait for it when it really kicks in. doesn't end like Thelma and Louise style.
Seriously, if you're going across the Nullarbor and you see the Wolf Creek, turn off.
Jesus. We got to get to a break. When we come back, don't go anywhere. Paul Roos.
The All Nations Hotel. That pub we just showed you was the show where the pub where this whole show started.
Exactly.
That's where 4 or 5 years ago we started filming in that pub, in that corner of the pub. I wasn't supposed to be on the show. I was just sitting there when the cameras turned up. So, happened to be there.
It was a documentary.
It's an absolute... It's an institution, of course, if you come to Melbourne.
It is, the All Nations.
Get involved with the show via our social media outlets any way you like. And don't forget, next Thursday night, it's our second last show for the year. We're a bit sad about that. Next week, the grand final edition.
Hello.
Thursday night, 8:30. Going to be some fantastic guests on the show as we...
Name someone.
Come on, give them something.
You know, we've got a few calls. We've got a few calls out at the moment, so we're just waiting for a few people to sort of say yes. No, but I promise it's going to be a great show. So if you've got nothing on next Thursday night at 8:30, make sure you tune in. One thing I do know is going to be on the show.
Yes.
And that is you awarding...
Next week, grand final show,
good Lord.
point of the year will be announced. And can I just say that we had a late nomination for point of the year.
I thought entries were closed.
No, they're always open. Right. Tom Phillips from Collingwood last week. Have a look at this. All the skills of the game. A mid-air kick around the corner for a point. That is a great... Have a look at the replay. Just to get his body in the right position and to do that, I just couldn't... I couldn't go past it, and it's in the running for
it's a point.
It's a point. It's a great point. And next week we give out this baby point of the year.
Can I say something? You've made a blue there because there was clearly one point that was better than all the other points last week.
No, I know what you're talking about.
I know it's not my segment. But have a look at this. This is Gunston going in. It's Hawthorn v Melbourne. The game is in the balance. Gunston never misses. Running into an open goal. Waiter, check please. We're done. Bang! Around the corner point. It's rushed down the other end for a goal. I think you'll find that is point of the week.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mickey. I'm with you.
Thank you.
An outstanding nomination. That has to be. Surely that gets entered.
You make a valid point. It's not your segment, and that is not a good. I know where to guess. That is not a good point.
Why is that not a good point?
It's a massive point.
It's the most important point of the week.
No, because he should have kicked it. He should have kicked a goal, right? I'm talking about points where it's tough to actually get any sort of score. Around the corners, gathers and all that, and somehow to score a point. That's a good point. That should have been a goal. Simple.
How many weeks have we done this segment? I still do not know how it works. I have no idea.
Hey, start coming to meetings then.
That's a good point. Hey, we've got to get to our first guest in a moment, but before we do, I know you're obsessed, you two. I know you've got footy on your mind, but for people like us, trades, it's all hotting up now. Who's going to go where, what's going to happen, and a couple of big names. Dylan Shield tonight, just as an aside, he's been one of the frontline names. In his exit interview at the Giants, has said that he won't be seeking a trade, so that doesn't mean he still won't leave the club, but he hasn't said to the Giants that he wants to be traded. So
you know why he's not seeking a trade? Because the only clubs have shown any interest are St Kilda and Carlton. He's begging them, please let me stay. Please let me stay. I don't want to go to Carlton. Not Carlton.
Well, that's not entirely true. A couple of other big names that have bobbed up are Stephen May, of course, and Chad Wingard.
Yep.
The one thing we actually know about it so far is that Dan Hannebery has expressed an intention as to where he wants to go. And I know you've been following Hannebery pretty closely.
Absolutely. Sydney, of course, he wants to go to St Kilda.
Correct.
I think, obviously, St Kilda want him. Looks like there'll be a trade being done. So, like I said, he's keen to get to the Saints. But judging by this interview, if the trade doesn't happen, he's just left himself a little bit of wiggle room if he wants to stay at Sydney.
I'm pretty confident. I mean, speaking to Sydney and St Kilda, I'm really confident. I'm sure there'll be a bit of toing and froing like all things do, but I mean, it has to get done. It may not, and if it doesn't, you know, Sydney's a great place to live.
Win-win.
Did you say wiggle room?
Wiggle room.
It's wriggle room. It's not wiggle. Wiggle are the wiggles.
No, he's left himself wiggle room.
Wriggle room. It's not wiggle room.
If you've just tuned in now.
Wiggle room. It's definitely wriggle room.
You got one of the greatest footballers to ever play the game standing over there, and you're standing here. Put it to him.
Oh, please make welcome Paul Roos.
Paul Roos. Roosy, how are you?
I was just about to walk out.
No, don't do that.
Is it wiggle room or wriggle room?
Whatever Andy said.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Correct
I don't
answer.
upset the... Yeah, hope.
How are you, and how are you nervous? How exciting is it to see Melbourne going so deep into a final series, given that you were there to help get them out of the ground?
Yeah, look, the first final, I walked into the venue with Jeff Freeman, one of the directors. It was just amazing walking around the ground with MCG and seeing all the Melbourne supporters standing out there. We got there early, standing out there waiting to get in. And I suppose that's probably when it first hit me, and then we did the game from inside the venue, and then once the siren sounded, the vision of, I think it was on the front page of the Herald Sun, Nathan Jones after he kicked that goal as well.
Yeah.
You know, it was just monumental moment for the footy club, and I couldn't have been prouder, and it was just great to see all
Such
the
a level of
supporters.
excitement, and the last two games, 95,000 people, and not just on the MCC wing either. You know what I mean? Melbourne are a big football club now.
Oh, huge. And again, we did it 2 weeks ago, we did it from one side of the ground. Last week we did it from the other side. And you're right, the whole ground has been Melbourne. And as I said, I think one of the great things, the last Best and Fairest I did, one of the best things that people coming up to me saying their kids could now wear their jumper to school. And that's when it really hits you. Yeah, they've been in hibernation. They've been in hibernation for so long, but it just shows you how important it is to people. You know?
Totally, well done.
Hey, Roosy,
Right.
we'll get you over to talk, have a bit more of a look at the game in a moment, but can we just go back to you as a player? You're one of the absolute champions of the game. 356 games for Fitzroy in Sydney. This is your first goal. Do you remember that clearly?
Not actually that goal. I do remember the game because I got dropped the next week. So 356 games wasn't looking that flash after week one. So, yeah, I went back to the seconds, I don't know, for a week or 2 weeks, and I came back up. And I think I played about 13 games in my first year. And then
How many at Fitzroy?
I played 269 at Fitzroy. And, look, it was great. We had a reunion a couple of weeks ago, from the 80s. Yes. And Matty Rendell made a really good point. He was up on stage and I don't know why, but he must have been bored one Saturday night, and he went back and watched some old vision of Fitzroy. And he made a good point, how many great players there were in that era.
Amazing.
And I think a lot of them largely got forgotten. Bernie Quinlan, Gary Wilson come to mind, Mickey Conlon, Laurie Serafini, even some of the lesser lights, Les Parrish, who passed away many, many years ago, Peter Francis, Lee Carlson, Neville Taylor, Chris Smith. So it's great to see all those old fellas and that were running around in those games.
You were so versatile, wasn't he, mate?
Oh,
so you could play up both. You could not pick up a man at both ends of the ground.
Well, I had a pretty simple theory in football. There's only one football. So if you've got it, then no one else can get it.
No one else can get it. I like it.
Don't get upset at me, Roos.
I'll tell you what, no nonsense in the kitchen as well, because one of my favourite books is Who Rules the Aussie Kitchen?
It's been too long.
A selection of dishes by footy stars. And
remember this, Roosy?
I do, actually.
have shot the lights out here with your patented roast chicken and field mushroom fettuccine.
I don't think I ever cooked that once.
I don't think you've ever seen it again since it was put under your nose. And I like this little quote which came out here, which kind of says, Paul lives a comfortable lifestyle in Donvale with his mother and his Labrador.
Simple life. Simple life.
That recipe will be on our website. Do not go away. That is as good as it gets.
Hey, Roosy, we're going to ask you to cast a A little bit of expert analysis over the two prelims. Richmond v Collingwood, of course, is the first of the preliminary finals we're looking forward to tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. on 7.
Unbelievable. Huge.
They've got momentum. They're carrying momentum through the final series. They believe, I reckon, Collingwood. How can they win this, Roosie, if you're trying to be positive about the Pies?
Look, I caught up with a couple of the Melbourne coaches a couple of weeks ago, and they actually said that the two best teams they played were Collingwood and Richmond. Now, admittedly, they played Collingwood a fair while ago. So I think they're well equipped. I mean, the biggest problem they've got, I guess, is down back. But the Richmond forward line's not as threatening in terms of tools as what the West Coast forward line is. You know, they don't have a big forward line. Mason Cox is obviously a large human being. But generally speaking, it's Hoskin Elliott and De Goey, etc., etc. So I think
they're very similar, the forward lines, aren't they?
They're similar forward lines. So I think the midfield's always going to be the biggest matchup. You know, I mean, it's just a huge battle. Sidebottom's one of the most underrated players probably in the last 10 or 12 years. Yep. I mean, Pendlebury's been well lauded for what he's been able to do, but the ability of the other guys, Taylor Adams, I love Taylor Adams, the way he's gone. Yeah, Adam Treloar's a terrific player.
All right.
Having said that, I think Richmond are favourites.
All right.
Hey,
he knows what he's talking about.
No change to either lineup, of course, so that's that taken care of. At the end of it all, we'll be a week closer to one man sharing the Premiership trophy on the dais, and it's something you got to do, and it was a beautiful moment for so many people back in 2005. Let's relive that moment when you got to hoist it at the MCG, Roosie.
To the people who have waited 72 years to see South Melbourne / Sydney Swans win the Premiership, here it is!
What a great moment. And a great line.
Yeah, go.
Where did Here It Is come from?
It's funny, like the night before the game, you obviously don't sleep a lot because you're thinking a lot about the game, and you're sort of rehearsing a little bit what you're going to say if you win, and equally you're sort of rehearsing a bit what you're going to say if you lose. So it's sort of strange what goes through your mind. But that particular... I didn't even think about that until I remember seeing the banner, and I think it said, one team, two cities or something like that. And I remember, for some reason, getting up at the end and feeling like that was really the culmination of... There was a lot of pain, obviously, when South Melbourne went to Sydney. Yeah. But I felt like that was the day that healed everything. And having won it, it just came to my mind right at the end of the speech, really.
I remember seeing Bob Skilton up there around it. It was just great to see how embraced Sydney was, even for those old boys who were...
Well, one of the things I remember, Mick, is really trying to think if we do win it, I want to take everything in, because I think there's a tendency to rush everything and then all of a sudden someone says, oh, what happened? You can't remember. So I was really conscious of being conscious at the time. So we stayed in the box for a while, and your point's really valid. When I got on the ground, I was amazed. And what hit me is how many people were involved in that. Not only past players. I mean, Paul Kelly gave me the cup, which was great, but all the crew that put in so much money during that private ownership period as well. All those guys were on the ground, all the administrators, Ricky Quaid, guys like that. So it actually really hits you there how many people were involved in that premiership.
It's an iconic moment in terms of a coach.
Oh, it really is.
And it's interesting to hear it was unplanned. It's an iconic... Here it is an iconic phrase. For me, not as iconic as when Mark Williams won his premiership speech in 2004 when he was thanking the AFL.
Also, I'd like to thank the AFL for being the AFL.
He nailed it. I think he nailed it. Hey, Roosie, we'll get you over here on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere. Paul Roos is going to join us here at the bar. And... stay tuned. We don't know how this is going to play out. We're going to cross over to Perth.
Good Lord.
When we come back, Ryan Fitzgerald, Alan Jakovich, Glen Jakovich. Keep your fingers crossed. Coming up next. Welcome back to the show. It is the front bar. Thanks to the brewery, Fresh Carlton Draft. Paul Roos, our very special guest. We need to thank Fox Footy, of course, for letting one of their prime contributors join us on the show tonight.
You're on loan tonight.
Yes, on loan,
Just some magnificent work over there. A lot of stuff we want to talk to you about, but we need to get over to Perth Stadium. West Coast hosting Melbourne, of course, in the other preliminary final.
Massive game.
Going to be huge. Can't wait. Ryan Fitzgerald is standing by. Fitzy, great to have you on the show, mate. How is it over? How is it over there in Perth?
I am so excited, Andy. I've been swept up by the excitement of the prelim over here at Optus Stadium, and I tell you what, I've smashed a few Swan lagers, and I woke up next to a quokka this morning, and the other good thing that I'm really, really excited about is that we have got the backbone of the West Coast Eagles. This bloke was there through that whole successive 90s. Can you please put your hands together for Glen Jakovich from the West Coast Eagles? Jacko.
Hi, Fitzy. Welcome to WA.
Mate, do you still get tingles, Jacko, when you rock up here? You've played in a few prelims yourself. How does it feel when you rock up to a game like this?
Particularly with this new stadium, 60,000 people. I mean, it's now or never. You've got Collingwood and Richmond tomorrow night, and then less than 48 hours, they're going to have 60-odd thousand people here and 58,000 West Coast supporters, and I believe there's 2,000 Melbourne supporters coming over the Nullarbor in their Range Rovers, so it's going to be a nice, comfortable ride for them. We're going to leave the welcome mat open for them, and we've got a little seat for Neil Mitchell. He's been potting us all the way from Melbourne, so we're ready and waiting for him.
He's going to knock your block off, Neil, and you don't want to mess with the Jakovich, that's for sure. All right, let's talk about this. A couple of weeks ago on the front bar, your brother Alan was on the show, and he was having a couple of pot shots at you. This is your right of reply. Do you want to look down the barrel of the lens? What do you want to say to Alan?
Well, I've been living for this for 25 years because I've had a footy career, and at times people come up to you and ask about your career, playing the premiership. Nothing, donuts, nothing about me. But they always say, I remember that day at the MCG, your brother kicked 6 and he planted that big kiss on your forehead, you know. So I've had to live with that for 25 years. I'm settling it here tonight.
Well, you know what? You want to settle it tonight because we do have your brother Alan Jakovich, everybody! Hi, boys. This is awesome. Do you know how excited I am? And can I just say this? Is this the first time you boys have been interviewed together, apart from the South Fremantle Police Station? But is this the first time you've been together?
No, I think back in '90, state game in Adelaide.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, you know what? This is a good opportunity, Alan. While you're both here, this could be a good counselling session. What do you think? What did you think of each other as individual players? Let's start with you, Alan. What did you think of Glen as a player?
Slow, soft, and too sympathetic to forwards.
Right, okay, yeah. And what did you think of Alan as a player, Glen?
Yeah, really love full forwards, prima donnas, self-centred, and always in the mirror before the game, so look at himself.
Let's talk about that one moment, and you showed this a few weeks ago, guys. This was the clash between the Jakovich brothers. We got the vision here. This was the kiss. I want to know what was going through your mind, Alan, when you planted your lips on your brother.
That Exorcist movie, mate. That, what he was saying on the mark there, I just had to kick it. And
was he having a crack at you about your mum? Is that correct?
Yeah, and I was having a crack back about his mum too. So Jimmy Styles couldn't work it out. Poor bugger.
Glenn, what was going through your mind when he planted his lips on you?
Well, I wanted to belt him there and then, but our dear mother was in the stand, so. As I mentioned before, I think I'd played 5 previous games and I'd won the 5, so I let him have 1. So, but I've been waiting for 25 years, and just as a precursor to this weekend's game, it was a big game at the MCG that day. Yep. Well, 25 years later, we're going to have a big game here in 48 hours.
Go D's.
And I've worked it out. That day there was a full forward who kicked 6. There's going to be a full forward here. It's going to kick 6. Yeah. Josh Kennedy's just finding his feet. I think Sam Frost is going to stand on the mark in the last quarter like I did. Yep. And he's going to kick the sealer. And then I'm going to chase my brother and I'm going to find where he is. But he would have bolted by then. So West Coast by 3 goals. And he can live with that for the next 25 years. I kissed him on TV.
Well, Glenn, while I've got you in a good mood, can I also bring up another moment? I don't know if you remember this. It was the year 2000, round 2, Sydney versus West Coast, and there was an emerging forward for the Sydney Swans by the name of Ryan Fitzgerald, 1-on-1 in the square with Glen Jakovich, and he bloody out-muscled him. We've got the vision here.
Ahmed kicks inside the 50. Fitzgerald. Oh, that is very good. Body to body with Jakovich, and he outstrengthed him. This is an exciting talent. Make no mistake about that. Ryan Fitzgerald.
Outstrengthed him.
Too strong.
So, So we outstrengthed him. That was too strong. And can you remember that moment? Can you remember round 2?
Negative.
Well, that's great because I have packaged it, I have framed it, and I'm going to pass it over to you now, Glenn. There you go. Fitzy versus Jakovich. There it is. There it is. Actually, you know what? We're all in a great mood right now. How would you feel? How would you feel if we recreated that moment one-on-one? Alan, you've got the ball. Would you kick it up to us?
Let's do it.
All right. Do you want to do that one-on-one?
One-on-one.
Me and you one-on-one.
This is going to end ugly for one person.
Andy, we haven't planned this. What I'll do, I'll throw back to you, Andy. Come back to us in 5 minutes' time, and we're going to do the one-on-one. Jakovich, Fitzgerald in the square.
Good luck with that, Fitzy. So we'll get back to them as soon as we have word back from Perth that has been done. That's a pretty big moment.
That is a big moment. It's a return serve.
Yeah, no
25 years in the making.
Are you playing both those blokes against them, Rosie? Well,
Fitzy I played with. Did you see the look of shock on Jacka's face? This skinny dork could outmark him. Like, he was just shattered, as he should have been. I mean, it's almost impossible to get marked by Fitzy. Almost impossible.
It's a very good point.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to the rematch. We are going to go back there
as soon as we get word.
There might be a bit in this.
So until we hear we've got that reenactment done, let's have a chat about the actual game.
Let's talk about the game. This is a massive game in Perth at the newer stadium. This is going to be an absolute bell ringer.
So there is a change to both. So I knew Brad Shepherd was out with a hamstring. Will Schofield, the veteran, comes in 170 odd games played. Are you surprised about the Melbourne call here, Roosie?
Oh, possibly, but I think they'd be worried about Vardy, Kennedy, Darling. So, Joel Smith's not a huge man, but he does have a great leap like his dad. So I think that'd be the reason. I mean, Bailey Fritsch can't really play on the bigger players. So
what about this guy? How important is this guy? He is just, since he's come back...
Has he surprised you, Roos?
Not really, because I had the privilege of coaching him. I mean, he's just the ultimate professional. Yeah, he would be doing everything possible to come back and play well. And
did I hear when he first got to Melbourne that you had to tell him to calm the farm a bit at training? That he was going in so hard he was injuring other players?
Well, I remember I was talking to Gary Pert, and Gary Pert's son, Mitch, played against him. I asked Purdy about him before I got there. I said, what was Jack Viney like? He said the parents were scared of him playing against their kids. That's how tough he was. But we had to sort of change his technique a bit because I don't remember, he sort of knocked himself out a few times because he was very straight line into a contest with. So Benny Matthews and the development coaches worked a lot with just shifting his body, but he's so hard and tough. I mean, the tackle he did on Gary Ablett a couple of weeks ago in the middle of the ground, and just his attack on the ball, his game on the weekend was exceptional.
Rosie, you are deservedly receiving a lot of credit for building the foundations of this current team. Another way of looking at that is that the team really got going once you left. I'm not saying that. The thing is... Rosie, take us back, though.
I can only apologise.
I hadn't heard that theory.
I'm a maverick, Rosie. Anyway, your first night at training, were you in shock? Did you realise the size of the task that you're taking over with?
Yeah, look, I only tell this story because Max Gawn's gone public with it, because generally what happens behind closed doors. So we've turned up on our first training session. I've got all the Sydney coaches who are used to a reasonable amount of success. We've marched on the ground, and generally what happens is the first to 4 years get there. So it's not a huge amount of guys anyway. We had a lot of injuries. We walked out in the track, there's about 12 players there. That was it. So Georgie Stone, who's the doyen of coaching, I said, Georgie, what are we going to do? He goes, mate, what about lane work? And I'm thinking, they're paying me a fortune to do lane work. That's the first thing that went through my mind. So, and this is a true story. So it's the first drill, the first training session, the first kick. Rowan Bale runs out from his lane and kicks it to Jack Fitzpatrick. Jack puts his hands up and obviously never went to the clinic, the kids' clinic, that says put your thumbs behind the ball. The ball goes straight through, smashes him on the formidable snout that he has, and I looked at George Stone, and George just looked at me and rolled his eyes, and I've gone, this is not great stuff. Anyway, Jack's picked it up, and he's a right footer, and he's tried to kick on his left foot, and I swear, as I'm sitting here right now, the ball snicked the outside of the leather on his boot, rolled 6 metres sideways. First drill, first kick, first training session. We finished the drill, and George is a funny guy. George comes over and he goes, Roosie, said, how bad must the players have been that got the flick?
He's a great man. Hey.
Well, you've come a long way since then.
We're in the right direction now.
Yeah.
I'm getting told by our producer we can head back to Perth. So just resetting, we're recreating that famous moment from 2000 when Ryan Fitzgerald outmarked Glen Jakovich in a show of absolute strength in that classic match back in 2000. I said, we can go back to you, Fitzy. I'm sure you're there. How did you go, mate?
We've had a couple of technical difficulties over here. I don't think we're going to be able to do the one-on-one. And the other thing as well is that the Jakovich brothers are beating the shit out of each other at the moment in the background. It's just, guys, I told you we should have gone with the Materas. We should have gone with the Materas, not the Jakovich brothers. Anyway, it's a disaster. Back to you guys in the studio.
Wow. Yeah, he's right. Hey, he's right. We should have got the Materas.
We should have got the Materas.
Right.
I'm a huge fan of these old calendars. And Alan Jakovich was in one. Have we got that in there? Hello.
There he goes.
Look at that.
Stu's calling you in the background.
Game of Thrones or something there. And this bloke here, what's he up to, do you think? Hey! Roosie!
Looks like a pirate.
It's like you've just had an operation. What's happened to you?
What are you thinking there?
That's from here.
Yeah, well...
Bruce, you're very selective with your memory. Why? Do you remember that or not?
I do remember that, yeah.
And why did you do it then? Were you that...
Well, footballers weren't getting that well paid back then.
Okay.
That was back in, like, the
And you
80s.
honestly didn't understand that would still be around 30 years.
Well, you never think forward when you do stuff like that. You're always
just like the Melbourne job. You did it for the money.
Hey, can I say this? Stand by, because we won't have it in time for this year, but the Men of Front Bar calendar should be out by this time next year, so hang about.
Not a chance in hell. Don't go anywhere. More Paul Roos on the other side of this quick break.
Is Fitzy all right? Is Fitzy going to be all right?
Paul Roos, our very special guest. Trying to have a bit of a walk through some of the key moments of your career. Where does the 2005 Swans Premiership sit in your top, all the things you've done in footy? Before I get to that, is it true you didn't see Leo take that mark?
Yeah, so what happened was there was a kick in. I think Leo was actually the one that kicked it in, and then Darren Jolly got outmarked, and that's when I looked down the other end of the ground. We knew there wasn't a long time to go, so I thought it was almost like, well, whatever happens now happens. And someone in the coach's box, I think it was Peter Jonas, yelled out, Leo's marked it, and then we couldn't hear the siren either. And then someone else yelled, oh, the siren's gone, because we saw Ty Kennelly jump on, I think, Leo's back. And then, so no, I actually didn't see it until I watched the replay, and Leo texts me every week with the vision anyway. So.
Has there ever been a more nervous time in your life that you can remember that just would stand? There would need to be like a black box recorder or something in that coach's box. How tense was it?
Yeah, it is. I suppose you've got to put it in perspective, because the coach really can't do much in that circumstance. And probably going back to the final when Nick Davis kicked the goal. Like we thought we'd lost that game, but we'd actually practiced that stoppage. So the players are the ones that have to do it then. We can't send any message down and construct that stoppage at that particular time. And it's the same with the kick-ins, and it'll be the same with Woosher in the other box. And, so you're really just in the lap of the footy gods in that situation.
Do you miss it, Roosy?
Oh, you miss winning. I mean, I miss that, but you're not guaranteed to do that every year. So
how close did it come to not ever happening? You take over from Rocket in 2002 in the caretaker role, and there's all the stories, and I think history will tell us now that Terry Wallace had the job, but there was such a push among Sydney supporters.
Fair effort for Roosy to make those signs too.
These are the players. You've beaten Richmond this day, the last game of the year. You're 6-4 through the 10 that you coach. The players clearly endorsing you as the coach here. When did you know that it was going to be your job and not Terry's?
Look, it was an interesting time, because I still don't know exactly what happened, to be perfectly frank. But subsequent to that, I actually got rung by Neil Cordy, I think about a week or so later, and he said, I heard you presenting to the board. And I said, well, not that I know of. And he said, well, I think you are. And I said, I better ring. So I rang, I think, Andrew Isle and said, oh, do you want me to present to the board? And he said, yeah, I think you better. So at that stage, I knew the job was a bit wobbly because I think they were hoping that I didn't find out. And then when the interview come, I didn't turn up. And then they said, well, you didn't turn up for your interview, so we're not giving you the job. So
that's my life story.
Yeah.
That's how I roll.
So look, it was interesting, but yeah, look, I've never been told otherwise than the process was. You know,
well, history will tell you it was a great result, and it changed that club forever. It's all in your book, your new book, Paul Roos. Here it is, of course. Now, one of the great bits of this book is you've got a very, very good. It's like a manifesto. It's 25 points of footy philosophy.
Rules.
Have you got 25 rules?
Where do they come from? How did it come about?
Well, it was interesting. I sat down at the end of, it was October 1998, and I don't know why, because I didn't actually know whether I was going to coach, but I didn't ever want to forget what it was like to be a player. So I just sat at my desk and I wrote down these points, because I felt like the longer coaches had been away from playing, that the less empathy they had with the players. So I just did it, and then obviously got the job. And when I got the job, I pulled that document out, just kept it in my desk for 8.5 years. Then I took it back out again.
Can you remember them off the top of your head? Can you?
Look, the real key ones for me, and sometimes people think they're that complicated, but players don't mean to make mistakes. Yeah, that was a really big one because, and you guys, all fans sitting in here, and there'll be some mistakes made tomorrow night. So you can imagine being in the coach's box, and you can imagine the number of times a coach has criticised a player for kicking a point or kicking the man of the mark or missing a kick, missing a handball. The other one was don't fly off the handle after a game. If you've got nothing positive to say, don't say anything at all. I've seen relationships just destroyed after games of footy. Yeah, when coaches just start and they just keep going and going and going and going and going. The energy of the coach rubs off and things like that.
Always remember to enjoy what you're doing. Never lose sight of the fact it's a game of football. Players don't mean to make mistakes. This is unbelievable, these 25. Mickey, your favourites?
Have the same hairstyle for at least 20 years. I think that's...
Is that 26?
That's a good one.
Yeah, I like this one. Say you'll never coach again, then coach again.
Has it got in brackets how much money you get?
No, Roosie, that one.
Tell Barry Hall to knock out Brent Staker. I mean, that is a ripper. Hey, what's this one?
Let's see, you've got always cut a strawberry open before eating it. You're ahead of your time, Roosie.
So you remembered, okay, it's well done. It's actually point 19 on your manifesto. After the game, don't fly off the handle. If too emotional, say nothing, wait till Monday. Well, you didn't heed your own advice on this occasion. And I, as a man who is generally pretty cool, you have gone cocoa bananas. You're waving a piece of paper around. I've never seen you so in the face of the team. Can you tell us what you're saying, what is going on? What are you waving?
Actually, I can, because all week we talked about our kick-ins, how we're going to kick the ball in. This was against Collingwood. And that was actually the diagram.
Point 19, Roosie. Point 19.
Point 18 says don't fly off the handle after the game. That was an important time. That's fine. So that was actually a diagram about kick-ins. Yeah.
Wow.
I hope someone picked that up.
Yeah, well, point 22 is always pick up after yourself, so you didn't pick after that one there. Hey, you mentioned Fitzroy when you're over behind the bar. There are a couple of manifestations of that team that you were part of that were awesome. The team that you first came into was full of super talent, and then the one that you had kind of late 80s, early 90s was full of some sensational players. Should a couple of those Fitzroy teams even maybe achieved a bit more than they did, so talented were those groups, do you reckon?
Yeah, it wasn't until I left Fitzroy that I realised how difficult it was. Without making excuses. When you're in the moment, but I remember often I'd get players ringing me about their payment. They couldn't get paid, can you ring up for the club for me and things like that. But when you're doing it, you actually don't even realise how impactful it is, because you don't want to make excuses. I think when I left Fitzroy and I realised how comfortable players were at other clubs, because you're right, we had a lot of talent. I think 86 we had a really good year. 83 was when Mickey Nettlefold ran the ball over the boundary line and they gave a delivery out of bounds, and I think Tucky kicked the goal sort of thing. So we had some really success in that early 80s, mid-80s. But after that, it was a battle.
Tougher.
Yeah, it got tougher.
86 was a really good team. And the 86 elimination final, Roosie, out there on a cold day in Waverley when Mickey Conlon hadn't had much of a touch all day and kicked this to put the back-to-back Bombers out That was I was there that day. It was an amazing day. And fair to say, Roosy, you're pretty happy.
Number one.
Yeah, number one. There you are. Mate,
have a look.
You talk us through this, Roosy. Talk us through it. Good day, big day.
He's just firing out.
What are you doing?
Roosy with his long pants.
Going,
There you go.
Yeah, I was pretty pumped up, I guess. Yeah, no, it's a really good day, and that probably epitomises how tough it was, and the lean times. And Mickey had a pretty dirty day that day, and I was with Mickey Conlon last night for dinner, and when he kicked that goal, you could see he didn't even celebrate because he was sort of a bit down on himself at that time. But he kicked the goal to put us in front, and then we went on, and I think we beat the South Melbourne Sydney Swans the following week, and then we just ran into a steam train in the Hawks the week after that in the prelim.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because you had one of the signature haircuts of the time, which was the mullet.
Yeah.
Okay, and you carried it off beautifully. I'm disappointed you're not rocking it today. But have a look at your hair, and you've come up against another very good mullet in Gary Ayres. But have a look. I think this one gives away. Yours okay.
It's pretty good.
But have a look at the master.
We regard these guys.
Yeah, that's another one.
In what era in history is that okay?
When you looked at that at the time, can you remember being envious of that or thinking, if I'd just sort of worked on mine a bit more?
The funny thing is, like, people talk about the mullet, but it wasn't like mulleted people talked about the mullet back then. Like, there wasn't a group of mulleted people. Well, it wasn't a group of mulleted guys who just hung around together and everyone hung.
Well, you say that, but I reckon it's a bit like the man bun today. I reckon.
No, I don't think so. No. Don't put us in that category.
Okay, I won't.
I love
the mullet.
We've still got a bit. Can you stick around for a bit? Paul is going to stick around. Don't get away. Next, mixed multi.
Oh yeah.
Very Carlton Drive.
So this goes over the page.
Welcome back to the show. One of our favourite segments, Roosy, is Fresh from the Archives. We dig into the archives here at 7 and find a bit of old vision we haven't seen for a while.
It's so good to be interviewing Paul Roos, of course, before he heads up to the Gold Coast. And
Did you give it a go?
I was up there on the weekend for the Southport game.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, right, OK. I thought you meant on holiday.
Have they asked you yet? Have they asked you
No,
them?
nothing. No, nothing.
When will you go, though, if they ask?
Oh, absolutely.
Fresh from the archives. Now, one of the in a storied career, in a storied playing career, didn't win a Brownlow, but you're often fancied going into a Brownlow.
Yeah,
and of course, well known, often in the United States at the time, Roosy, a well-travelled man. But that didn't stop Channel 7 during a Brownlow coverage incorporating you into the coverage.
Not all the favourites are here tonight. Paul Roos, Paul, you've had a magnificent season. He'll be watching this telecast tonight. We might be talking to you at the end of the night, Paul. Congratulations. Good luck tonight, mate. We wish you well.
Now, obviously, you didn't win, so they didn't talk to you at the end of the night, but that looks like a bit of fun, Roosy.
Yeah, it was bizarre, really.
So you did that more than once, didn't you?
I think twice.
Yeah.
So that was 3 a.m. in the morning or 3:30 in the morning. So I had to go into a studio live and had no idea when they crossed to me. So I would just sit there like in a box with a camera in front of me like this.
Well, let's have a look at what that looks like, because, like you said, Roosy, they'd be doing the vote counting and then they just randomly cross to you.
M. Dundas, 2 votes. Fitzroy, P. Roos, 3 votes. Fitzroy, R. Lyon, 3 votes. Collingwood, T. Francis, 3 votes.
You didn't even get any votes then, they crossed you.
P.
Can you see how tired I am?
Fitzroy,
What is going
P.
on?
Roos, 3 votes. Richmond versus Hawthorn.
Mate, you can just... after that... I can't believe you did 2. After the first one, you could have just said no.
I should have said
why
no.
would you do it? But by the way, can I just say, that looked awkward and it felt...
It felt awkward. It felt ridiculous, yeah.
By the way, don't worry, though. Still not the most awkward cross during a Brownlow. That honour goes to Wayne Schwass.
Is that right? Yeah.
North Melbourne, W. Swass, 2 votes. North Melbourne, W. Swass, 1 vote. North Melbourne, W. Swass, 3 votes.
That's of course.
They crossed back at the end to show he's getting his prostate checked.
Well, by the way, why isn't he in a tuxedo hospital gown? He's flouting the dress code.
You didn't win the Brownlow. Scotty Wine won it in 92. You only got 10 votes, which is incredibly disappointing. Who wins it this year?
Oh, I think Tommy Mitchell. I mean, Tommy's had an unbelievable season. I think the other, Dusty's had a great year, and Maxie Gordon. I think it's going to be an interesting year for the ruckman.
Great.
I think it's a test for the umpires, and I say that meaning. I mean, what do we think?
If it's ever going to be anything other than a midfielder's award, this year is a great test case because there's a couple of guys with big blokes who've presented.
So it'll be interesting.
You'll see it here, of course, on Channel 7. Time now for Mixed Multi. For those...
I don't care how much money you got. Go nuts.
No.
Go.
Just bring you up to speed with last week.
Borrow some money from the bank and get on board.
0 and 4 again last week.
Well, you can only go up then, can't you, mate? Can only get better.
What are you ready? Are you feeling good about this?
I am. I'm pretty pumped. Are you ready to go?
Ready to go.
Are you?
No, I've lost it.
There it is.
That's Roosie's manifesto.
You might be better having a go.
0.5. Okay, here we go. Leg one. Get on board. First up, this reporter has positioned himself at the bottom of the run while people hurdle towards him on tyres. What could go wrong? I'd like to wager that...
I love the way he picked up the mic.
It was pretty good.
That's commitment.
I'd like to wager the guy that snowboarded was pinged for below the knees. Do you reckon that?
You know what I mean? No, you can't have it, but how about you take your Tigers to win by 40 plus and I'll give you 375.
Plonk the house on that.
Oh, by 40 plus. You cocky man.
To put it mildly. Second leg. This cyclist is about to take off in the individual time trial. Have a look. Yep. And... I'd like to wager that guy also failed his audition for the Krusty Demons.
I think he would have, but you can't have it. How about you take the Storm to beat the Sharks by 13 plus and I'll give you 270. What do you reckon?
Well, mate.
Go Storm. I love the Storm. I think they've got it.
Multi's going well tonight.
Oh, what, you're trying to moz it, are you?
No, I'm saying if you put this much effort into your relationships, you wouldn't be single, by the way. Yeah.
You see what I mean? It just comes out of nowhere, doesn't it? All right, the third leg.
That is...
Check out this woman. She's at a party. It looks like a good party. Then something terrible happens to one of the gents on board. Firstly, no worries. How could it get worse? Well, let's have a look at this and... Bang! I'd like to wager that is either the best hens night or worst bucks party in the history of the world.
You can't have it. Oh, no. But how about you take the Rabbitohs to beat the Roosters by 1 to 12 and I'll give you 288.
Taking all of this, I like this. I just can't see this losing.
Oh, no.
Here we go. Let's boot this baby home. Oh yeah.
Right.
Have a look at this D's fan and look closely. Look at his face.
To smile about in the Melbourne fans. It's gloom and it is doom.
Yeah. I'd like to wager that footage was taken when you were coach.
No.
Andy told me to say that.
No,
this is the getting him out of the ground process.
I would never have said that. No, you can't have that. But how about you take the Eagles? What? The Eagles to beat the D's by 1 to 30.
Never.
You're 240. What do you reckon?
I'll have to.
Righto, what's it paying? Bag it up. What's it looking like?
70 bucks. That is a brain-snapping bargain. See you on a big boat in the Bahamas.
To get on Mixed Multi, jump on the Sportsbet app, look for Mixed Multi in the Megabet section of the app, and please gamble responsibly. Don't listen to him and don't be seduced. He is the devil when it comes to this sort of stuff. Roosy, thanks.
No, thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Roosy, thank you, mate. You're top
Paul
shelf.
Roos, our very, very, very special guest. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, the last shout. Wrap it up after that.
Good on you, Roosy. Top shelf, mate.
Thank you. Welcome back to the show. Time now for the front bar lap of honour. Thanks, of course, to Mercedes.
I love this. Well done, Mercedes.
We head to beautiful Kyabram, fantastic part of Victoria. Of course, thanks to the Mercedes-Benz X-Class Ute. That, of course, is the unmistakable Judy Nelson. Getting the lap of honour she thoroughly deserves, boys.
What for? What does Judy do?
She's been involved in the club for 40 years, for God's sake. She's, look at her flapping her arm around there. It's magnificent. Mate,
what's she do?
She is the canteen manager. She's been the treasurer. She's famous for her pumpkin soup.
I've heard about her, yep.
And her melting moments. That's what you've heard about. People come from far and wide, not only to watch the footy, but to get a bit of her melting moments.
Look at that. That's a classic bit of Australiana right
great,
there in the country. Look at that. And she's waving to no one. But
you know, she's been asked. Don't ask what's in the melting. She's been asked for the recipe, and she won't give it away.
She's been asked for her melting moments recipe.
She has, and she won't give it away, nor should she. She arrives at 7 o'clock on the morning of game. 62 wins in a row. The mighty Kai.
Well done.
Club.
Good
well
on
done
her.
to you, Judy Nelson, the superstar. All the very best.
I've actually got her melting moments here. Andy, tried that one. No, seriously.
Oh, I see what.
Actually, yeah.
Hey! There you go.
I know.
Hey?
Yeah, I see the game you're playing. Time now for the last shout. Right.
What is it? Who is it?
No, well, the dedication of fans. There goes Judy's melting moment. The dedication of footy fans knows no bounds.
I love this time of year. It really weeds out the diehards, doesn't it?
It does.
It's incredible to see.
And this is the scene at the MCG yesterday. This is Albert's son, who was keen to get a ticket. He rocked up to the MCC a little early.
Well, 24 hours early, because he's been there for 24 hours and no one else has turned up yet.
He's there on his own, waiting to get a ticket. That's the sort of stuff that we applaud here on the front bar. People who go to ridiculous...
Sheer stupidity.
Yes.
Or a commitment.
Yes.
Albert, to you.
Albert and Stephen, man. Good on you.
All the very best to you, Albert. Outstanding stuff. Hey, that is it. We are done and dusted. Thanks to Paul Roos. Thanks to Fitzy. Hope you're okay, big fella. Thanks to the Jakovich brothers. Magnificent.
Go Tigers.
Yeah, good luck, mate.
Yeah, good luck to all
seriously.
teams playing.
Yeah,
it's going to be a great weekend of footy.
Don't forget...
Next week.
Well, there's heaps of footy to get through. The Brownlow on Monday night, and then we're back next Thursday night for the grand final extravaganza.
Who's on it?
We've got a couple.
No idea.
We've got a couple of irons in the fire. We'll just hopefully we'll have some news on who's going to be on the show.
Oh, look, all right. There is currently no one booked on the show next week.
But
what a show!
Well, we'll be here, won't we? We'll be here. That's it. We're done and dusted. Thanks for tuning in.